Critical Blast, where pop culture gets blasted.
And hello out there in YouTube land. It's RJ Carter, Senior Managing Editor here for CriticalBlast.com. And we are going to try this open mic night thing again and just see who walks in the door. You know, if you live in a good neighborhood, you leave your doors unlocked. If your neighbor walks in, you don't mind. They just kind of come in and announce themselves. It's what we're going to do here. We're all good neighbors, right? I hope so. Very least, if you come in, I've got nothing you can steal because it's YouTube. It's all digital. Don't worry about it. So we got things to talk about tonight. First of all, we'll get some things out of the way, give you our schedule for what's going to be coming up if you want to tune in for later shows. Tomorrow, that is Saturday at 7 p.m. Central Time, we will be talking with Mike Barron and Todd Mulrooney about their book, Florida Man, which is on Indiegogo. And then Monday night, we're going to be interviewing Todd Livingston and Nick Kapitznakis from American Mythology and the book series that they're doing called Starring Sonia Devereaux. And I do love this cover here, this homage to the House of Secrets 92 first Swamp Thing appearance. Sonia Devereaux is a real fun book. And I expect we're going to have quite a good time talking with those guys. And then Tuesday at 7, it will be time for T-Bird and Throttle as they wrap up their Indiegogo campaign. After that, it's open until Saturday when we have the LCS guys on for our bi-weekly get-together. So if you have a book that you want to get pushed or a project on Indiegogo, you know what to do. Hit us up in our DMs on Twitter at Critical Blast, and we will be happy to schedule into one of those slots. Of course, in the very comment section right here, the live stream comments, I have laid out the link to this live stream. So if you'd like to come on now and talk about your projects, or if you just want to come in and talk about what's going on in the industry right now, just geek out with us in general, hit the link, come on in. We're very friendly in here. Would like to talk a little bit about Dynamite Comics and the unique... They're between Scylla and Charybdis lately, and I don't understand it. It's a true rock and a hard place for them. On the one hand, they are being thrown under the bus by writers like Mags Basaggio and Carla Pacheco. Carla, who actually is writing the latest iteration of Betty Page for them for 5 issues, who has announced on Twitter that she will be leaving the company after her run on Betty Page is over, citing differences with management and leaving it pretty much at that. Very vaguely kind of a transphobic kind of vibe coming off of it. And of course, Mags Basaggio has infamously tweeted that, consider that CEO for Dynamite has thrown a super chat at a Comic Skate stream. So, of course, that's got her upset. But at the same time, their BFF, Gail Simone, who's writing for Dynamite, has worked out a humble bundle box sort of thing where the money raised is going to be going to Black Lives Matter. So you've got two sides from the same faction who are at opposite odds with each other here. And more than that, because they're doing the humble bundle for Black Lives Matter, now they've got people who are Comicsgate saying, well, I've just done throwing my money at Dynamite now because they're doing this. Like, guys, you know what? They're selling hot dogs to people who are hungry for hot dogs. Jason from sci-fi4me.tv, how are you doing tonight?
I'm good, RJ. How are you?
Man, if I was any finer, they'd have to pull me over and drug test me.
Yeah, well, I don't know that feeling.
Well, have yourself a couple of kidney stones, get checked into the ER, get used to what morphine drips feel like.
Yeah, no, I'm not the one who usually ends up in the hospital. That's usually Mrs. Boss that does those trips. So I'm fairly fortunate in that regard. So
Have you ever been to Chicago?
I have. Yep. Yeah, we actually were at C2E2 in March.
Oh, great. When I was there, it was I was going to college in that area, and there was a chain of hot dog vendors called Portillo's. I say vendors; they didn't walk around with a cart. They had full-blown restaurants, and that's what they served was hot dogs, 50 different ways.
Yep.
And the reason I bring that up is because your boy Zach is always comparing the comic book industry to hot dog vendors. He's like, "You want to buy a hot dog? I got a hot dog here. Selling hot dogs."
Right. Ethan's made that same comparison too. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, when you went to Portillo's, you had 25 different ways you could get your hot dog. You could get your chili dog. You could get your cheese dog. You could get your chili cheese dog. You could get your Mexican dog. You could get your plain dog. However you wanted to top a hot dog, they stuffed it in a pretzel. You could get a hot dog any way you wanted it. And they had plenty of them. And what I'm seeing here now with Dynamite, what I was just talking about, where they can't make anybody happy. They're doing humble bundles for Black Lives Matter. That's got some Comicsgate people angry about, well, I'm throwing money at Dynamite. Why am I doing that? At the same time, they've got anti-Comicsgate people like Carla Pacheco and Mags Asagio angry at Dynamite. And they're like, well, you know what? Carla's going to leave her book as soon as she's done with it and not work for them anymore. And Mags is trying to pull people off because he donated to a CG stream.
I think part of the problem with comparing the two, and I get it. Dynamite is in the business of making money. They're going to do things to appeal to various different demographic groups and customer bases and all of that. But I think the more information that comes out about the Black Lives Matter organization, not necessarily the movement or the idea that Black people should be respected just as much as anybody else. That's a completely different concept. But the Black Lives Matter organization, the people who are in charge have actually come out and they're on tape admitting that it's a Marxist group. And as we find out more information about where the money goes for this Marxist group, I think it becomes a little bit more of a problem for some people, for companies like Dynamite to be doing business with them because of the objectives of the company. They are anti-American. They're you look at their alignment with Antifa, which has now been labeled a domestic terrorist organization. And I think really, and not having seen the particular criticisms from Comicsgate about what Dynamite's doing, just on principle, for anybody to be doing business on behalf of Black Lives Matter, to me personally, this is just my take, seems to be either we're going to pander to a market because this is the time that we're in, or we're aligning ourselves with a politically and ideologically dangerous group without really knowing who this group really is, in which case you've got companies dealing in ignorance. There are a lot of different things here in play, and it's kind of hard to know without really getting into the weeds on what Dynamite's motivation is for doing this humble bundle. It could very well be that they're just sitting there trying to play both sides of the fence.
Sure.
But
and I'm sure that's all it is too. I mean, the person at Dynamite who's actually pushing all of this is largely Gail Simone on her Twitter channel, talking it up. And it was, I don't know for sure, but I'm guessing it would be quite likely her idea that she brought up to management, saying, "Hey, we have these comics. They appeal to this demographic. Let's pull this demographic in by saying that we're going to donate money from the sales of these books to this movement that they support."
Well, and it could also be that that higher ups in Dynamite are feeling some outside pressure from maybe not just from Gail Simone, but from other writers, other creators, but maybe other businesses, other publishers, or somewhere up and down the supply chain. It could be any number of ways that Dynamite could feel like they need to do both. I mean, they've done the cover with Ethan. They did the cover with Anna. This could just be a way of saying, okay, we're not picking sides. So, we'll do both sides. But if you stand in the middle of the road, at some point, you're going to get hit by a car. So,
yeah.
I don't know.
And unfortunately, they're getting, like I said, they're getting attacked from both sides by trying to not pander, I don't necessarily think, but trying to just sell to both sides.
Well, and that's why we
go to Portillo's, you don't like a pretzel dog. They say, hey, you want a pretzel dog? I'm like, no, I like the chili dog. I'm going to buy the chili dogs.
Yeah.
The guy behind you, you don't like him, and he's in line, and they sell him a pretzel dog. He's like, why are you selling him a pretzel dog? Well, he likes the pretzel dogs. Yeah, but, his money comes from here, and it goes to that.
Yeah.
I don't think Dynamite cares.
There's a political ad that's running on the radio here locally in the Kansas City market, trying to paint Chris Kobach, who's a candidate. I can't remember. I think he's running for Senate, or he might be running for governor. I can't remember, but he's a Republican, and he's it's a political action group that's running these radio spots, basically trying to paint him out as a white supremacist because of some of the people who have donated to his campaign. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, it might be a legitimate criticism depending on the nature of the relationship between Kobach and the donors, but that doesn't necessarily mean that Kobach's personal ideology aligns that way. You're conflating two different things and trying to, put 2 and 2 together, get 5. And I see a lot of that in the media now, and having been in the media for 30 years, I know it's really easy to do that kind of thing where, two different things being related don't necessarily mean that they're connected. Exactly. You can take this piece over here and take this piece over here, and you can make anything look like anything if you try hard enough. And
the thing with Trump since 2016 by trying to tie white supremacists and donations to him.
Right.
I'm like, well, Trump's come out very strong against immigration. Gosh, do you think that white supremacists in America might have strong feelings that are similar about immigration?
Well, you look at the thing that he did this week with the executive order now on Hispanic employment and opportunities for that group. And what is it? Goya Foods, the CEO of Goya Foods, which makes a lot of Mexican food products. He's like, this is great. This is a wonderful thing. This is a tremendous opportunity. And they're like, we're not gonna buy Goya Foods anymore. I'm like, okay, who's the villain here? Somebody needs to do some self-reflecting and say, are we the baddies? Because they're not, and they're until the people who are actually doing this realize that they're the ones doing it, it's not going to change. So,
honestly, right now, somebody could come out and say, hey, we've got a cure for cancer. We couldn't have done it without, this funding from Trump. And people would say, I don't want that cure for cancer. You take that and shove it somewhere.
Yeah.
Simply because of where it came from, because they can't give up. It's no longer important to people anymore that you like the right things. It's more important that you hate the right things.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what drives a lot of this. Do you hate this as much as I do? I don't care what you like. What do you hate?
Yeah, and not only that, you look at the Harper's letter with the various different signatories coming in and saying, oh, I didn't know that person was going to sign it. Take my name off of it. So this whole open letter to cancel culture, I want to cancel my support of the cancellation of cancel culture because you got the wrong people who need to be canceled also think that the cancel culture needs to be canceled. I mean, the double speak that's going on with that is absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
So,
and that's now it's advanced to the point where they're denying the very existence of cancel culture now. I said,
Yeah.
cancel culture doesn't exist. It's a right-wing construct. Nobody has lost their career. Saw a tweet right before we came on. Somebody tweeted that nobody has lost their career because of cancel culture. And I'm like, paging Mr. Vic Mignogna. Mr. Vic Mignogna to the white phone, please.
Chuck Dixon, Graham Nolan, John Malin. You know, I could rattle off probably a dozen people. You know, Mitch and Betty Brettweiser, Richard Meyer getting his contract canceled at Antarctic Press because of cancel culture. You know, this kind of crap happens all the time, and to deny it, and even then, you know, what about those people who have canceled themselves, like Warren Ellis or Alexandra Duncan, or is that her name, Alexandra Duncan? She she just canceled her own book just a couple of weeks ago because she's too white.
Yeah. I recall the story. I can't recall the author's name. I know that's the second time an author has done that.
Actually, well, it's third time really, because you had the one with the Chinese slaves.
That's the one I knew.
And then you have the black gay writer who actually came out criticizing the book about the Chinese slaves, and then he got his book canceled. He got criticized. The cancel cult came after him for whatever reason, and now you got Alexander Duncan's book getting self-canceled. So that's three that I know of. There could be more. And then you've got the lady that got fired from the publisher for tweeting a piece of just one little hashtag support for J.K. Rowling, and her career's imploded. Yeah, gone.
Yeah, she was with Harper, and was she with Harper? I think she was with Harper. And they've let her go because hashtag I stand with J.K. Rowling.
Yeah.
So that's insane.
Well, and I've even seen some tweets talking about basically trying to push the narrative that the Harry Potter books kind of spontaneously erupted. Who wrote those books? Nobody wrote those books. They just showed up.
Of course.
We're not even going to acknowledge that J.K. Rowling exists. I mean, if that's not unpersoning and cancel culture at its finest, I don't know what is.
We live in interesting times, my friend. It's the Chinese fortune cookie curse come to life. Honestly.
Oh, no doubt.
You mentioned the Richard C. Meyer cancellation from Antarctic Press.
Yeah.
And I watched your stream from yesterday where you talked about the Bleeding Fool article that came out with the Facebook secret group.
Yeah.
We did the stream also yesterday with Chris. Do you think that Richard's even going to bother throwing in that extra bit towards Alex DeCampi?
That's a good question. If it were me, I would at least be having a conversation with my lawyer to see if it's a viable option to pursue. I have not seen him make any kind of a comment on it at all yet. So, hard to say at this point. I think some of it might depend on how strong of a case they might have against Wade. Not being, lawyerly and such. I'm speculating, but if it were me and I really wanted to drive home the point that this kind of thing needs to stop, then yeah, I absolutely would see about bringing Alex DeCampi in and, blow the door open on this whole, comic book women secret Facebook group and see who else has been conspiring, because we saw out in the open what Mark Wade said, what B. Clay Moore posted about trying to provoke Meyer at I think it was Baltimore Comic-Con, and say, well, maybe I can get him to throw a punch and try to antagonize him that way. We've seen that. We've seen threats against the Breitweisers. Peter Samedi getting swatted. So we know that all of that stuff is out there. It would be interesting for me to see what else gets posted in these Bleeding Fool articles that are coming to expose just the nature of all of this consorting together to try to get this stuff done. If there was a Simon and Schuster deal in play, that could also factor in, because with Alex DeCampi mentioning that, there's a two-pronged thing. What rabbit hole is that? Because that could lead to exposure of other conversations, because if they were looking at publication from Simon and Schuster at some point, who else was in the mix? Because that actually goes back to somebody made a comment. I want to say it might have been John Delarose, was saying that this whole lawsuit against Mark Waid was a big nothing burger because Meyer could have gone to two other people. He had two other prospects that were interested in the book. Well, if one of those was Simon and Schuster, then we now know that they were targeting that one, that possibly that was interfered with at some point. And if there's a third one out there, maybe that gets discovered in all of this. Who's to say? Maybe Meyer is the focal point for all of it to blow wide open.
It could be. I mean, I know that the day it came out, and I ran across the tweet again in the article that we had up right after Antarctic had dropped everything, in which we talked with a lawyer, a professor of law at Washington University, about, are these comic book salespeople colluding? Is that legal? Is it against the Sherman Act? And it was, of course, determined that, it was perfectly legal for all the stores if they decide not to carry a product. It's a group boycott.
Yeah.
He said sort of like he compared it to the cable industry. The cable industry, you can compete, you can pick and choose your cable industry. Guess what? You've only got one in town to pick from ever to do. But he did, mention that, if it was another writer working against a graphic novel writer, that there was a case for interference there. It's a tortious interference case on that one.
Well, and I saw Ethan mention at one point in his stream, because they were talking about it, about a couple of different things about him getting ousted from DC. Ethan mentioned that he had learned by accident from Rich Johnston over at Bleeding Cool that Sam Humphries had organized a number of writers at DC to basically say, we're not going to work with Ethan anymore. And if that's true, then Ethan could have a case. I know he said he doesn't care. He's focused on Cyberfrog, but there's another instance where you have collusion in these back channels to do harm to someone's livelihood. Not necessarily, hey, let's go all out and post on social media that Ethan's a Nazi, but let's all decide we're not going to work with him anymore. And that, to me, has just as much, if not more so, of an impact than, name calling. Reputations can be damaged, can be repaired, but livelihood can be impacted much more severely in that kind of case. Right. So if that's going on out in the open, then the stuff that's going on in the background, I would imagine probably is 10 times worse.
Yeah, I've got two thoughts on that too. One is I need to talk with Brett Smith because Brett Smith is the one who was setting up the distribution deal with Simon & Schuster and was speaking of it as though it were already in place to be done. That, don't worry, we got this. It's going to be distributed through here. Yeah. It sounded like a fait accompli. I need to talk with him and find out, was it solid and lined up, and why did it not get distributed that way? Because we never heard anything about any story about Simon & Schuster backing out of any deals.
Yeah, and I never saw anything that came across here that there was ever even a deal under consideration. So how far along that was, I would be interested in hearing about that as well, because if there was a deal, like you're saying, what happened to it? But I would also be interested in who that third option was, because if there was another publisher interested, there might be a story there as well.
And that's the other thing. Richard could have had 10 different publishers fighting for this thing. And he'd already decided on Antarctic. Said, okay, this is who I'm going with. We've got a contract. And Mark Waid comes in and, sticks his foot in the door and says, wait just a minute, I'd like to talk to you guys a bit, and gets the contract canceled. It doesn't matter that he has 9 other opportunities. They had a contract. Mark Waid interfered with it. He can go off and make millions of dollars with party 2, 3, or 4 if he chooses to do so, but he can still claim damages for what was lost on that contract. It's illegal to interfere with them.
That's right. And I think that if there's any substance to what we're seeing about Alex DeCampi and the Simon & Schuster deal, then I would think that he's probably got another lawsuit to file.
It'll be interesting. I can't wait to see more from the Bleeding Pool expose on that, because we saw that she had so many folders on different people there that she had screen captured. Surely it wasn't just willy-nilly capturing everything that was going through. It was stuff that she thought was actionable or should be seen.
Well, and with DeCampi having been a contributor at Bleeding Cool and her connection to Rich, and now you've got, we've seen Heidi McDonald also in that list of things. How many other media figures are in that group? Not just the creators, but the media. I mean, we could conceivably be looking at another Gamergate level bombshell, for lack of a better word, because as we saw back then, where the Games Journos Pro list that was around, that secret list of the games journalists that were coordinating together with their coverage, and the relationships that the games media had with the developers, whether they were personal relationships, friendships, dating, or whatever, or if they had fiduciary interest in these games, that stuff didn't get disclosed. And when that blew open, the games journalism has never recovered. Nobody trusts a lot of these media outlets anymore because they're all biased. I mean, you look at what happened with The Last of Us 2. These 10 out of 10, 10 out of 10, 9 out of 10 scores are completely unrealistic in the grand scheme of things. And I think you could be looking at something similar here, where if you have Rich, you have Heidi, maybe some people over at IO9, the Mary Sue, who knows who's on that group. I mean, 443 members, you're going to have a few.
Now, you're familiar with Gamergate. You're well versed in it. I am not. I'm not a gamer, so I wasn't following any of that stuff. But let me ask you this. Gamergate was what you just described. I know that much from having been around it now enough to know that it was this journalism collusion with the game makers. How is it that the general public view of Gamergate came to be incel male gamers don't like girls?
Part of it was the games media circled the wagons. And I didn't follow Gamergate in real time. I'm not a gamer myself, so a lot of this was after the fact research that I'd been doing. I found a really interesting timeline at one point. I'm not sure exactly where it is at this juncture, but it spelled out everything of how things developed. But what happened was the games media, they circled the wagons around their own journalists, trying to protect that side of things. And as they were doing that, some of the accusations that started flying back and forth involved, sexual assault, harassment, misogyny, and all of these. And enter Anita Sarkeesian. And of course, you had Zoe Quinn involved in all of that. And the narrative very, very easily, I guess, got manipulated and morphed into the, white man bad, sexist, racist, homophobe type of thing. And the mainstream media, the main entertainment media outlets like Entertainment Weekly and USA Today and that sort of thing, they started picking up on this and additionally circled, it was another layer of wagons circling around because the journalists, were going to stick up for each other. And it sort of kind of took on a life of its own at that point. And then, of course, with social media and your blue check marks amplifying that narrative that Gamergate was just a bunch of white male incels living in the basement at mom's house, you tell a lie enough times, people will start to believe it.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. Matt Reese is in the chat here, and he says 100% Simon & Schuster didn't go through because of the lawsuit. That's an interesting take on it. Where is it possible that Simon & Schuster was looking at it and then saw that your boy Zach was filing a lawsuit against Mark Waid and said, "Oh, you guys are going to get into lawsuit territory. We don't want to possibly even consider being there."
Could be.
I don't know if Matt's 100% sure of that or just 100%. Probably that's what happened, kind of thing. But,
well, in that particular case, you could be looking at not necessarily Simon & Schuster not wanting to get involved in the legal hassle, but it could very well be that the nature of the lawsuit is such that maybe Meyer either decided or he was told it'd be better to hold on to the rights all on his own in any case. I don't know. I haven't heard him make any comments to the effect that anybody else was looking at the book. If Simon & Schuster was interested, and if they decided to back off because the lawsuit was going on, the timing of that seems like it doesn't quite line up. Because if Simon & Schuster was interested at about the same time that Antarctic was, then there's still time between Antarctic dropping the book and Richard suing Mark Waid for somebody else to step in and go, "Oh, Antarctic doesn't want it. We'll take it," because the legal stuff didn't start happening until 3 or 4 months later.
There was a gap.
Yeah.
And Brett Smith's tweet on the matter was within 24 hours of Antarctic dropping the news that they were dropping the book. So,
yep.
Again, I'm gonna have to tweet Brett and get a hold of him. I haven't heard from him in a while anyway. See what is this.
Now,
okay,
Matthew, I don't think that's correct, because like RJ was saying, even if Richard's got 12 dozen other people interested in the book, the fact that he's got a legal binding contract with Antarctic Press for publishing Jawbreakers, and Mark Waid makes a phone call and Richard doesn't have the contract anymore, that's, Antarctic is in breach at that point. If they decide to drop the contract that quickly because of interference from Mark Waid, then that's tortious interference. Whether Richard's got a contract with anybody else or not is immaterial to this particular lawsuit. At least that's my understanding of it.
I could see where if he got another contract and got some money out of it, that money might be taken into consideration as to how much damages he was asking for.
Yeah.
Because you've got the minimum amount of damages that says this is what a tortious interference lawsuit is worth, and then you shoot for well above that. You're saying yes, and here's how many copies it would have sold, and here's what I would have made. Now, if you've already sold that many with another option, I mean, technically he's crowdfunded the thing to a few $100,000. Judge could say, yeah, okay, well here's your minimum 60,000 or whatever it is, and not the million or whatever that might be shooting the moon for.
Yeah, and that also could be where the Simon & Schuster thing comes in, where if we get another contract with another publisher, then you don't have as much of a leg to stand on for, you throw out a particular dollar number. Okay, fine. But the fact that he went ahead and crowdfunded the book all by himself, depending on how you present that, either you crowdfunded it yourself in order to protect the rights to the property and not get it tied up in all of this legal hassle, or you're publishing it yourself because nobody else will touch it, or because you don't want anyone else on the publishing level interfering with the project. That could be a thing too. It could very well be, maybe the Simon & Schuster thing fell through because Simon & Schuster wanted to change the story. Well, you guys, Antarctic dropped it. We'll pick it up, but maybe we need to change a couple of things so we don't have issues with the cancel cult. We don't know what kind of conversations were had at that point with them as far as what would be involved in publishing that book.
Right.
So it could be
don't
that
even know that Simon & Schuster truly was signed. We have nothing from Simon & Schuster ever anywhere saying, "Hey, we're going to distribute the book."
Yeah, we have nothing to indicate that it was anything other than Brett knows a guy and they were talking about it at some point. That could be, chips and salsa and beer talk just as much as it could be a formal negotiation of some sort.
Yeah, and we don't even have anything from the secret Facebook group where Alex DeCampi is saying, "Okay, gals, mission accomplished."
Not yet.
Yeah, not yet.
Not yet.
That's the other thing about that group too. A lot of people are saying, "Oh, you found a private group where women were talking about guys and the ones they didn't like." I found it interesting that when Chris brought it up that there were a difference between secret groups and private groups on Facebook. I always thought it was just private group, but you can set up a secret group that you can find a private group, but you can't find a secret group. So
yeah.
And Ned set this one up specifically as a secret group. Gabriel Hernandez in the chat, thank you for coming by, man. We're just kind of shooting the breeze. For Zach to walk, the timeline matches. Yeah. Funny thing about this whole lawsuit here is that when it was getting ready to go to court, I was in Texas. I was working in Temple, Texas. And I'm like, well, I'm at like a 2-hour drive, I guess, to Austin.
What were you doing in Temple?
I had a job that I picked up and moved my family to this job because we're going to go south. We're going to be in the south where we always wanted to be. And we got to Temple. It's worse than that. I worked in Temple. I lived in Waco. And we went into a hotel room for 2 weeks. And we looked at houses in the area, and my wife says, "No, we are not living here. We stay in the hotel till you can, get back." And I'd been relocated, so all my furniture was in storage. So for 9 months, I was paying $900 plus a week in rent to the hotel, and $600 a week, a month, in storage unit costs to store 3 units of furniture until I was able to get deep enough into my contract that I could move it all back out and not get sued by the company for having moved me. That was just a nightmare. But at the time while I was there, I'm like, hey, it's December, the lawsuit's being heard, probably be in front of a judge by February. I'm going to take a day off and drive down there and live stream the lawsuit. And since that time, Vic Mignogna's lawsuit has sprung up, gone to court, been heard, been out, going to appeals. We're nowhere near anything on the Meyer versus Wade case, and we won't be for a while.
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna do anything. Probably, I don't expect to hear anything on that one for the next 6 months.
Oh no, not at least. Gabriel says he hears Bleeding Fools Part 2 will be coming out on Tuesday. That would be cool. I'll check with Chris. Chris has said that he'll give us a heads up so we can kind of get some live stream going on it whenever it pops up. Like anybody will be here to watch us, because I'm sure EBS will be reading it live to 3,000 people tuning in, and I'll probably be tuned in there instead of trying to attract 1 or 2 guys here.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what the rest of it is. I think in that first part they said there were 3 parts, but I don't. Is that my understanding, or we got more coming past that?
just more parts.
Just a series. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I don't think they've limited to 3. And like Chris said, he's kind of at the mercy of when Penny Parker has time to actually do the writing because it's all freelance work.
Yeah. I'm curious who Penny Parker is. I mean, I'm not going to dig into it and find it and try to find out because I don't want to. Yeah.
And I couldn't get anything specific other than, definitely as a female, got invited into the group by someone who was in the group, obviously.
Yeah.
And he did say, you don't have to be a comics professional, a colorist or a writer or an inker to get in. You can be comics media like Heidi McDonald was. So she may be somebody who was comics media.
Could be. Could be.
Matt, gonna have to disagree with you on that one. I don't see it as a nothing burger. But I'm not a lawyer either, so.
I don't think it'll be
it depends on how good his lawyer is.
I don't think it'll be a nothing burger. I think. I think. Just on the outside looking in, I think he's got a pretty strong case. I think the matter of jurisdiction with the Houston Comic Con, Comicpalooza in Houston, I think that was a big complicating, big nothing that just never should have mattered. But the fact that a judge said that he can move forward on any aspect of the case, then that tells me that somebody sees that there's something there. At the very least, that arguments can be made in court, and I think Meyer's got a strong enough case that he'll get either some kind of a settlement or he'll win the lawsuit.
It may be split because there's multiple claims on there, so it may be that some of them get won and some of them get thrown out. And if that happens, then what's going to happen is both sides are going to say, "Oh, look, the important one got thrown out, and we won this one."
Well, the defamation, I think, has already been tossed.
Yeah.
Because of the jurisdictional hijinks. But yeah, the tortious interference is moving forward, and I think there's one more. But yeah, I think it will maybe not necessarily set precedent, but it will definitely set people back on their heels if Richard wins.
I think it will too, especially if he wins and wins big. Right? The thing really that shot Mark Waid in the foot with this whole thing, which you could say opening his mouth, was that. But the fact that he went to Comicpalooza in Texas and said it, if he had never left California, then this whole thing might have just gone away because of the jurisdictional problems.
Well, no, that's the one that got tossed.
The one he said in Texas?
The one he said in Texas at Comicpalooza, that's the one that got tossed, the defamation. Now, the tortious interference, because Richard's in Texas, Antarctic Press is in Texas, that one is still moving forward, even though Mark's in California, because the contract was executed in Texas between two parties in Texas. So that's the case that the judge is allowed to move forward. And I have to go back and look to be sure, but the defamation, I think, is the one that got tossed.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, Gabriel, you're exactly right. And if you saw our stream yesterday with Chris from Bleeding Pool, I brought that very thing up to him because I'd had the privilege years ago, about a year before he died, of interviewing Andrew Breitbart, and he talked about the whole how he doled out pieces of his videos when Project Veritas was just a little baby. And I'm sure that Bleeding Pool is going to kind of do the same thing, just dole it out as they get it. Probably focus on a creator at a time if it was me.
Yeah. Either that or focus on particular targets with each article, because in this first one we saw Dynamite, we saw Cullen Bunn, we saw Richard. I think they could go that route and say, okay, well, now look what they did to X and So person, look what they did to Chuck Dixon, look what they did to CB Cebulski, and that kind of thing. Or they go after specific projects, maybe.
Briefly taking an aside here, I did one of the fun things I like to do, which is hit the dollar bin at my local comic shop, Cosmic Comics in Belleville. And if I can get these on the camera here. Thunder Bunny.
Thunder Bunny. Reminds me of Captain Carrot.
It's kind of Captain Carrot. It's kind of Hoppy the Marvel Bunny. In fact, it's very Captain Marvel-ish. This is the Thunder Agents, by the way, teaming up with him here. But Thunder Bunny was interesting in that he was a kid, like a 12-year-old kid, like Billy Batson. But whenever he, made the change, he was super powerful, but he was also an anthropomorphic rabbit, living in a real. I mean, the way the thing is drawn, everybody, there's some beautiful line work in here in this independent by Brian Bunyak, and written by Martin Grime. But yeah, all the characters in here are drawn, realistically, except for, of course, this giant cartoon rabbit. It's like Beat Shot Roger Rabbit. And I want to say that's 1987 there. Just fun dollar bin finds. Got an old World's Finest here. Batman and Superman running away. I don't know who drew that. That's one of the very gritty covers. Looks like it might be Cardi or Haney rather. And of course, you've always got the Superman getting beat up by somebody who shouldn't be able to beat him up. That's a buck. And the giant hand grabbing Superman.
I have that one. Yeah.
I'm gonna look forward to digging into these. And then in our sci-fi lineup, sci-fi4me.tv, we have this came in for review. I'm gonna be watching this tomorrow.
Oh, okay. I have not seen that one.
I've not seen Attraction 1, so I don't know if I should see Attraction 1.
See, that's the thing. I get emails offering review copies of things, and some of them are sequels, or they're in a series, third or fourth or fifth in a series. I'm like, well, I've never heard of this series. Should I get the other 4 and read them first and come back? But I don't know. Well, it's hit and miss.
It's really books.
Yeah.
Because I just don't have the time to read anymore, and I still get books to review. I've got a children's book here, Ants Don't Talk, Do They? Which is supposed to be, the kid's got an illness. He has to stay indoors, wear a mask. Everyone has to wear a mask around him. It's obviously written with the COVID crisis in mind.
Sure.
To give kids something to take their minds off of having to wear their masks all the time. But other than that, I just can't get into the 500-page paranormal romance stuff anymore just to find out what the current book is.
I am still unboxing some stuff from moving this past summer, and I have 3 boxes that I'm going through now. That's all of the review copies of of books that we've had, and they date back to 2012. That's how far behind I am with that. So
that's a lot of reading.
Yeah.
So I guess we shouldn't send you review copies of our books then.
No. Well, actually, I've got one. Stephen Mitchell is sending me his, so Bulletproof Origins should be getting here in the next few days, and we'll be taking a look at that one. I am currently, it's not down here. I'm currently reading a Neverwinter D&D book, and I couldn't tell you when it was published. It is, I can't even remember the title now. Angel is in the title. But it's been out for a while. I'm finally getting to that. But yeah, I'm like you. I do not have any amount of time to spend on doing any of this stuff. We had an idea for a review show, and I'm still thinking I'm going to do it at some point. We're calling it the Fourth Chapter Book Club, where whenever you read a book, you generally kind of get a sense of whether or not it's something that you're going to finish in the first few chapters.
Right.
So the idea here is, in order to get through all of these books that we've got, go through the first 4 chapters, and then maybe decide if you're going to read it to the end. Is this worth the time? Am I interested in this? Do I like what I've read so far? And that way you have, pretty much like a slush pile. And you basically sit there, and that gives us, not only do we have material for, our first 4 chapters, here's what I thought, but if you decide that you're going to finish it, then you can circle back to it, and now we get a review later, a full review. So there's some opportunity there, but you would, again, figuring out the logistics of getting all of that put together. So it's on the back burner for now, but who knows? It's on the list.
Dragonlance novels?
I have not.
The Weiss and Hickman ones. They were a lot of fun, and I was going to say, if you had, I was going to recommend another series to you. Which, we've already just talked about how much reading time you have.
I've got Angst. Actually, I think David is from the Kansas City area. If I'm
yes, he is.
Yeah, I have Angst. I don't have any of the rest of them.
Well, the rest of them are just as good as. It's a brick. If he ever releases an omnibus, it's going to be a family Bible on the table there.
Yeah, no kidding.
But if anybody else in the chat has not read the Angst novels by David J. Peterson, definitely do. It's a really fun series. Concept is that it's a medieval fantasy. The guy's always wanted to be a hero, but you know what? He lives a normal life, married to a normal wife. He's got a paper pushing job. He's got magic, but a lot of people in the kingdom have magic. He's just not allowed to use it because it's simple, and magic is pretty much illegal unless you work for the government and do it the way they want you to.
Yeah.
And then, he's in his 40s, he's got a bad back, his hair's thinning out, and he pulls a sword from a stone. And now he has to be a hero, and it's a midlife crisis in medieval times. And he's not cut out for fighting right now, and he's the only one who can do it.
That's usually how it is, right? The unlikely or the reluctant hero.
That's how Campbell built the journey that way, or defined the journey that way, rather. It was already built. So what else you guys got going on sci-fi for me right now? I mean, been catching your live streams when I can here.
We've just relaunched a new show. Well, it's not a new show. It's an old show that we're bringing back. It's called Live from the Bunker. It's an interview, discussion, conversation show that we brought back this week. It started in 2014 with our first attempt. That was, the original idea was to do a call-in show. We set up over on Blog Talk Radio, and it didn't quite work. Nobody called in. We had one person call in the whole time that we were doing stuff, and so it kind of fizzled, but it morphed and evolved into an interview program. And so we've relaunched it this week at noon on Monday through Friday, noon Central. And we're going to make that our dominant conversation talk show program. And in the times where we don't have somebody lined up as a guest, then I'm just going to rant. And this basically replaces Chillin' with Pineapple that was running on Sunday nights. because it just got to a point where it was just too late in the evening on Sunday to be manageable. So, and the analytics on Google says that people are looking at our channel around the noon hour, so I figured I might as well take advantage of it. So that's the new thing. And then of course I'm in the midst of prepping for tomorrow morning's show. So quite a bit of news dropping this week. We've got a lot for tomorrow. So we'll be loaded.
Do some experimenting with our live streams. We had the live stream yesterday at 5 p.m., which is an off time for us. We're usually here on 7.
Yeah.
And everybody else is too. But when we did live stream yesterday at 5, I got 160 views on that thing. And that's for us, nobody knows, even though we got 1,000 subscribers, they're, courtesy subscriptions. Come on.
Sure.
That's huge for us to see 160 views within less than 24 hours.
Well, you're also running the Bleeding Fool article and going through that. So the subject matter, I think, probably drew some eyeballs as well. I mean, me sitting here talking, I'm boring as a rock, but the scandal and the controversy is much more interesting than anything I
and that's why I wanted to try a couple more just to see if it was the scandal and nobody else was talking about it at that moment, or if it was just a really good time. It wouldn't work out for me long term anyway, because eventually I'm not going to be living at home all day long. They're going to let me go back to work.
You think so? Well, and the thing is, the thing that I've been looking at, and I need to be doing better about it, is to use the Google Analytics data, because if you're doing live material, and I got to looking at them, thinking, well, people are looking at our channel in the noon hour and around the 6 p.m. hour. For whatever reason, it's just working out. That's where the higher traffic indicators are. So let's see what happens if we actually run a live program in that time period. And it seems to be working out. I mean, we're still only double digits on most of it, but we did have our last Ranker Pit, which is our Star Wars discussion program, that got linked in one of Ichibaka's articles over at Disney Star Wars is Dumb. And Gary Beekler over at Nerdrotic posted it on his latest video. So we've gotten quite a bit of traffic off of that. We've picked up a few more subscribers this week. I think we're at 14. Let's see, where are we here? 1422. Let me refresh this.
I'm at 1,030.
1421. We lost one, but yeah, we're bouncing. That's usually how our subscriptions work. We'll get 2 or 3, and then we'll drop down, and we get 2, and we'll drop down. It's follow the bouncing ball all through the week. But that video has now 221 views, which is pretty high for one of ours. So,
and well, you said something controversial on Star Wars, and somebody got mad and they unsubbed.
Well, that could be that. You never know. But this is we do have a regular thumbs down brigade, and there is one person out there. I call him Gary, who shows up, and it's just there long enough to hit the thumbs down on the video, and they disappear. And I think I know who it is. But yeah, it's one of those, I got my feelings hurt and now I'm going to get my revenge. But he's investing a whole lot of time in hitting these thumbs down just because, if it's the same person, I'm guessing it's the same person, because really we don't delve into enough of the opinion pieces in the bully pulpit to really tick off anybody. So I think it's more of a pettiness driving the thumbs down that we're getting right now. But
an interaction is an interaction, from what I hear.
Yeah,
YouTube cares about the interactions. We had like 4 thumbs down on the Bleeding Fool interview we did yesterday, which this first time I've had that many. I think I've had one before on something. And then it was because, I don't have a good mic quality on my videos yet until I replace the laptop. And I mean, somebody said, get a good mic. I'm like, I've got a great mic. It's a beautiful mic. It's not hooked up to anything because the laptop is a piece of crap.
What kind of plug does it have on it? Is that XLR or USB?
USB.
And the laptop doesn't have USB ports?
Oh, it's got plenty of USB ports. But if I use this laptop to stream from, it doesn't have enough processing power to run the camera and the mic and a browser all at the same time and stream from it. And that's when I start to lag and drop and reboot.
Yeah. I have been very impressed with the earbuds that have an inline mic in them. So if you get, I don't know that I've got any around here. So basically the
for your iPhone.
Yeah, we did when we did our live coverage at Planet Comic-Con in 2017. I experimented because we pulled in using Zoom and had on Sunday afternoon when it wouldn't matter if we crashed or not. I basically put our various different reporters around the event space, and we all dialed in from their phones into Zoom. And I was really surprised and impressed at how good the quality was on those microphones. They're tiny little mics, but you plug one of those in and that'll give you some pretty clean audio.
I've thought about that, and the only reason I didn't is because right now the lightning port is occupied. Because when I stream, I want to make sure I don't run out of power in the middle of the stream.
Right.
So I stay plugged in while I'm doing it. But if I could get like a Bluetooth version of that,
so you're streaming. So you're streaming from a cell phone, not a laptop.
I'm controlling it from the laptop. Like if I get in here to the brand total here, the brand total.
Gotcha.
Try this thing here. If I change that to the Sonia Devereaux thing I'm going to be doing Monday night with those guys, or to the Florida Man one that I'm going to have up, that's all done on the laptop. But the streaming, the audio and the video is done with the cell phone. I basically tapped my StreamYard. I mailed the StreamYard link to myself, and I opened it on my phone, so I'm a guest. I
gotcha. What's the reasoning behind doing it that way? Is it just a cleaner picture?
Because if I add myself to the stream like this, now that's from the laptop.
Yeah.
But if I start using that camera, or even if I leave the camera off and I just use the microphone, it starts to lag on the broadcast. And
gotcha.
You've seen people go robot on the whole thing, or just freeze up entirely. I've been in the middle of the stream before where I just got total blue screen on my laptop, and I left all my guests because the stream was active. They were in it. They just had to carry on without me until I was able to get back in.
And you're on an iPhone then?
I'm guested on the iPhone, hosted on the iPhone, guesting on the iPhone, hosting on
the laptop.
6-year-old HP. Yeah. That I didn't buy with streaming in mind, because at the time I was like, I need a DVD drive on it. That's how old it is, and I need to be able to hit the internet. I don't game, so I don't need high speed. So they didn't give me high speed. Now, it's just as good as a gaming machine to be able to, stream on stuff. So
yeah,
I've got to consider that next time I get one.
I'd have to look, because I'm on an Android mobile device, so I'm not sure what the options are as far as cables go for the lightning plug. I don't know if there's one out there that would give you both or not. As far as power, yeah. I would think there's got to be some way that you could do it.
There's got to be a way to have a microphone and keep it on power. I mean, at the very least,
there could be a Bluetooth option for that.
I may get some duct tape on the back of this thing and just have it hanging off the back of my phone while I've got the thing plugged in.
Well, no, what you probably should do with that, get you some little LEDs, get you a little LED ring light on it, tape it to your chest, and that way you're doing a little Tony Stark cosplay at the same time you're hosting your show.
That would be very cool. yeah, I can do that. I've got more costumes in the closet, but it requires that I take the banner off of it to open it up to get them out. And I've used, some of them. I did an interview last week. Gosh, time flies. When you sit here 12 hours a day, every freaking day for 3.5 months. But we had some cosplayers from the UK on here, the Cosmaniacs that do charity work, and we were talking with them, and I was like, I feel underdressed, so I got my my Jake hat down and put on my Golden Age Flash long sleeve shirt. And I'm already gray haired, so that worked out. I just did that. I've got a full size Superman costume folded up in there. I've got a full size Hairy Yeti costume. So someday Bigfoot may, be hosting the show. I actually had that out. Are you familiar with The Legend of Boggy Creek, that movie?
I've heard of it.
Yeah, it's a cult classic Bigfoot film. The lady whose father did it, we interviewed her because she got the rights back. Apparently, Boggy Creek, everybody was putting it out on Blu-ray and DVD because nobody knew who owned the rights, so they were just getting away with it. Mm-hmm. And she finally legally got all the rights back to it. There's never been a legal copy of that out on Blu-ray or DVD if you bought it within any time before last year. So I was interviewing her, and I thought, well, this will be fun. I'll just put the Bigfoot costume on, and I had so many errors with the laptop. I was like, this sucks because my internet was slow on it, and her internet was slow. So she was hanging, and I was hanging. I'm like, okay, this just sucks. Forget this. But I'm sure I'll have an opportunity to bring Bigfoot into a science fiction talk again sometime.
Well, that'll be fun to watch. All right. Well, I need to bail and finish getting prepped for tomorrow morning. So good talking with you. Thanks for opening up the stream for people to jump in. So
thanks for popping in, man. I appreciate it. And Matt, Gabriel, everybody else in the chat, I appreciate you guys being here. And we'll do it again. We'll be back here again tomorrow with Mike Barron and his crew talking about Florida Man at 7 p.m. Central. So y'all come back. Thanks, Jason.
Right. Thanks, RJ.
Hi. Thanks for stopping by for another Critical Blast video. The internet is a big place, and we know there are lots of other places you could be other than here, and we appreciate you being here immensely. If you enjoyed this kind of content, we hope you'll return for more. If you click the subscribe button, you'll get a little notification of when we produce new video content. If you would like to help the channel out, there are many ways to do so. Just visiting our main hub, criticalblast.com, will do wonders. But if you're more of a show me the merchandise type of person, there are links in the description of this video to our t-shirt shop, as well as links to Amazon for the books we publish under the Critical Blast Publishing imprint, including the urban fantasy anthology Gods and Services and the YA superhero novel Bulletproof by Stephen J. Mitchell. Thanks again for visiting this video. We hope you had a blast.
And this is why I need to get a new laptop, because I'm hitting the end broadcast button while that's up there so I can get the end broadcast confirmation button, and we'd have been out. But it's hung up, so I'm not out.
That's just the way it goes, right?
That's just it. So, I think I can end it now. I can end it now. So,
all right,
everybody, thank you and good night. Or I can't